Hey guys, we've been hard at work designing the first few finalized pieces of art to kind of set up the pipeline for getting art made for the game. Usually when we design a card, we get the art team, they meet amongst themselves, they find some pieces of art that inspires them, and then they'll come to us with 3 sketches. These are the bootstraps. Bootstraps are one of Pygmalion's items, and he's the merchant character for our game. Keep in mind, every character in our game is like their own class, and the things that you're buying are unique to that character that you pick. So every time we introduce a new character, we bring a whole new custom card pool for that character. Pygmalion, he has some entrepreneurial tendencies. Started with some black and white versions. Basically, we look at these and then decide, which direction do we want to go down. And after talking about the pros and cons of each and picking one that we like, option number 2 is what we decided to go with here, right in the middle. We move on to colorized sketches, right? And sometimes there's a couple versions of this, right? Like there's different ways to introduce the color palette of the character. And there's a few different ways to incorporate the colors of that character into it. Because, if we have dozens of items and a bunch of them are next to each other, it'll be cool if there's some sort of unified, color palette behind them. I think it's just, aesthetically, it's just more pleasing. So after talking it through, going through the pros and cons of different ways to colorize it, a few phases of polish, we ended up with a finalized bootstrap right here, which I think is great. I think the bootstraps really pop out. The color looks great. It matches Pygmalion's palette pretty well. It's a bit of a simple item, but I wanted to start with this to show you guys what the process is normally like. Get some black and white sketches, pick one. Get some colorized sketches, pick one. And talk about the pros and cons of each option and why. So I want to talk a bit about non-bootstrap cards to show you what we learned when the process wasn't quite as smooth, right? So this is one of the weapons in the game, also for Pygmalion. It's like a stick that throws an arrow. It's a very classic, primitive weapon. We killed a lot of mammoths with these over the years as a species. And it's a very unique object. It's a kind of object you might find in an intergalactic bazaar with weaponry from all different planets and time zones. And it's just like a stick that throws an arrow really fast. They're really hard to aim. So the Atlatl, right, we started with these sketches, and we ended up going with, I want to say the left one here. And after colorizing it, we kind of got stuck. We basically stopped here. Because for whatever reason, I really wasn't a fan of how these looked. I felt like something was off. They seemed like a caricature of an item. It seemed like not serious enough for some reason, or just like childlike. I don't know, it's hard to describe. I didn't like the look. After thinking about it more, I realized I think that I didn't like the look because the arrow is curved. And this was kind of a nice accident because in the previous black and white sketches, all of the arrows were curved. So we actually, inevitably would have ended up learning this. But basically, here's the lesson. We figured out that, look, if we're gonna have items that are unique, something like an Atlatl, right? This is not in a lot of video games. A lot of people don't know what that is, how it's pronounced, what it's supposed to look like. We shouldn't do a weird version of an already weird item. And it's kind of a similar lesson we learned from Pygmalion, right? We didn't make him purple because he's already a pig man. That's his thing. We don't need to make a weird version of an already weird character, So we kind of decided to make the same rule for inanimate objects. Basically, if the object is exotic in some way, we're not going to make it a caricature of itself. We're not going to make it a weird version of an already weird object. We're gonna try to keep weird objects simple, but really simple objects we can spruce up a little bit. So really quick, I want to just talk about one other design lesson, and that's kind of here at the snow globe. We ended up getting a few sketches, snow globe item, again, Pygmalion. This is a pretty basic item, uses the freeze mechanic in our game. And we like the middle drawing of the 3 options, made some color options. I noticed that when I was looking at these images on their thumbnail, when I was looking at them from far away, it wasn't clear that they were a snow globe because these white wisps look just as important as the white circle in the middle. And they were kind of detracting from the identifying characteristics of this object. As a team, the art team decided, let's make a rule where there's no more unnecessary magic in our artwork. And this is something that a ton of game designers do, right? There's particle effects just going on everywhere. And sometimes it makes sense, right? If it's like a magic spell being cast, there should be magic in the artwork. But if it's like a snow globe, does it need magic white wisps all over that make the object unidentifiable at a distance? But keep in mind it's a cross-platform game. It's going to be played on a million different screen sizes, on Android especially. I want it to look good on all those devices. So after making the rule of no unnecessary magic and getting rid of it, we ended up with this, which I think is just a much more polished piece of art. I think when you look at this at a distance, you know, it is more recognizable as a snow globe. And I hope you guys are kind of seeing the value in setting up rules like that throughout the process. I want to talk a bit about Boomerang, because this is a bit of an example of the Atlatl rule we made, but kind of the opposite. We started with a few black and white sketches here, and all of these looked pretty good. We ended up really liking the angle that this boomerang was coming in at, but also liking the teeth on these. And you know, after some revisions, picking some colors, we ended up here. And we really like this art. I think it looks great. But keep in mind, a boomerang, unlike an Atlatl, is a very common object. Most people know what a boomerang is, how it functions, what it looks like, the shape of it. Most people are vaguely aware of what a boomerang is. It's in video games all the time. Basically, for a common item like a boomerang, adding something spicy like teeth to the front of it makes a lot more sense, because then it's identifiable as the Bazaar's boomerang, not a boomerang. And this is an example of the design rule that we made for Atlatl applying to boomerang. Compared to, you know, a boomerang like the middle one here, it's a drastically different look. And that wouldn't have happened without, you know, these design rules that we set up. Keep in mind right now, we're not just in full force trying to finish all the cards for the game as quickly as possible. What we're trying to do is like set up processes, right? Because the game is going to need hundreds of cards done, and I want to make sure that the art team, you know, can do a great job, you know, even when there's not time to give a ton of direction on every little thing. And they've been just super great to work with so far. What I want to be doing is getting you guys into this process. So what we're working on is building out like a content schedule that we're going to roll out. Part of that is going to be, you know, more and more YouTube videos on this channel here, but part of it is also going to be getting interactive social media posts where you guys have a hand in the game design. Once we're at a stage in the project when we're churning out a ton of 2D art, what we're going to do is take a bunch of that and post, you know, the early stage of these bootstraps. Like this art, basically we'll post this on Twitter, right? And then you guys pick which one of these we go with. You guys pick number 2, okay. We move on, we get the colorized ones, we make this a post, and you guys pick which color you want, right? And then eventually we'll show you the finalized one. And hopefully this is something we just integrate into the process so that you guys have a hand in actually determining what the end product looks like. And I think it's just valuable for us too, because we know, you know, what direction's more appealing to you. Hope that you guys liked the video. Hope it was a little bit interesting to you. And see you guys next time with more content about the Bazaar.